It was one of the strangest cases that police had ever seen. The year before, a man, his wife, and their two kids had lived in a big old house at the end of a quiet suburban street. But then one night they all vanished and their home was left empty. Even stranger, nobody seemed to know why. It wasn't like them to just leave town without saying goodbye. It sits alone at the end of a dead-end street. From the moment she stepped foot inside, she felt an unsettling presence that made her skin crawl. But when the new owner finally got around to moving in, things took a turn for the terrifying. But what happened to them? Well, as it turns out, that's a question that has continued to elude authorities for decades. They raised their two children, John and Bobby, in the home, and everything appeared to be normal. On January 1971, she packed up her belongings and left the family home with Jerry. She took the boys with her to her parents' house. What they saw down there shocked them. Spread across the concrete floor were thousands of knives. Some were taped together in pairs to form makeshift weapons. Helen Chest's body has never been recovered, and she was declared legally dead in 1973. But what really happened to her? He admitted to killing Helen, but claimed that he acted in self-defense after she attacked him with scissors while he slept. Over the years, many theories emerged regarding the case. People believed the boys might have been taken by an unknown kidnapper, or that they ran away from home after witnessing their mother's murder. But none of these theories made any sense. Why would a kidnapper leave the boys at their father's house? In fact, the haunting presence extended to those who lived there too. Terrified, he stayed under the covers until morning, unable to sleep. Then when the sun came up, he discovered that his bed was soaked in water. Apparently, a pipe had burst in the middle of the night. But how could he have been sleeping while water poured onto his bed? He's since installed cameras throughout the house to catch whatever might be lurking about. One camera caught the shadow of a little boy walking down the hallway. Was it John? Was he playing with a ghost? Or was the apparition watching me? The current owner has experienced some unexplainable events firsthand, like hearing footsteps when he's home alone. After all, 3 members of the family were murdered in the home. Could their souls be angry? Are they trapped here because their killer refuses to confess to their murders? Or is there another explanation altogether? Sometimes the footsteps are gentle and sometimes they're heavy. He's heard chains dragging metal moans and other strange noises that can't be explained. And why would John and Bobby run away when George was clearly capable of killing their mother? According to George, he buried Helen's body behind the house, but never uncovered any physical evidence to help explain what happened to Helen, John, and Bobby. Whatever the truth may be, it's clear that this house is haunted. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. The spirits that linger here refuse to move on, and whoever moves in will be tormented by the ghosts of the past. It wasn't until 2016 that the house was finally put up for sale. Perhaps the new owner would be able to uncover answers and bring the family peace. But when police excavated the backyard, they found nothing but a pair of Helen's shoes. These unexplained events included shaking beds, flickering lights, cold spots, and even whispers coming from the walls. But that's not all. Some people reported seeing ghostly apparitions, including those of a man, a woman, and 2 young boys. Many believe the ghosts are the family who once lived in the home, trapped here for eternity. He later recanted his confession and pleaded guilty to a lesser charge. He served 5 years in prison before being released and moved to New York, where he died in 1997. Others were thrown carelessly across the basement. The police immediately arrested George for violating an order of protection that Helen had taken out against him. He was also charged with possession of a controlled substance and illegal weapons. But Helen was nowhere to be found. But the following weekend, she allowed George to take the kids back to his house so they could spend time with their father. That's the last time anyone ever saw Helen alive. George worked as a plumber and Helen as a secretary. They were members of the First Baptist Church in Oak Park, active in their community. But as time passed, their relationship began to disintegrate. George became increasingly controlling and abusive towards Helen, often showing up drunk and beating her. The couple started having problems at the church, and by 1970, they were completely estranged. Once inside, you'll find rooms filled with the remnants of a life abruptly ended. An overturned chair, a half-eaten bowl of cereal, toys lying about, but there's no sign of the family that once lived here. When his boss asked him what happened, George claimed that he had been in a car accident. His boss noticed that his clothes were clean, though, and he couldn't account for the blood on his shoes. Concerned that something might be wrong, George's boss went to the police. He didn't believe George's story that his wife had cut off his balls. After all, he'd never even seen her. So perhaps it was best if officers checked in on the woman. There were no signs of a struggle, nothing had been stolen. And to top it off, their disappearance happened on the same day that a creepy new neighbor moved in next door. Who could have imagined that this unsettling mystery would only get deeper? Now, welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring one of the most haunted houses in America, the last house on the street. If you love scary stories and unsolved mysteries, make sure to subscribe for more spine-chilling content. And with that said, let's begin. This eerie abandoned home is located in a suburb just outside Chicago in the small town of Oak Park, Illinois. At first, he assumed the home hadn't been properly cleaned out after the previous owners disappeared and figured the bones must have come from some stray animals that had wandered in. He called the local animal control to remove the bones, but they told him it would be the police's job to deal with it. As it turned out, these mysterious bones weren't animal remains, but human. In 2017, the real estate agent who sold the house, she never should have listed it. When he arrived, the house looked vacant, but as he walked through the front door, he found a pile of animal bones sitting in the middle of the living room floor. The police investigation revealed that the bones belonged to 2 children, which meant the home had once belonged to a family of 4. The story began in 1968 when a young couple named George and Helen bought the charming red brick house at 456 West 15th Street. Helen met a man named Jerry who was helping her escape the relationship. On Monday, January, George showed up to work late, reeking of stale waste. When police arrived at George's house, they noticed that the garage door was broken, which allowed them to see straight into the basement. The police searched the house, but other than a few traces of blood, they found no evidence that anything unusual had occurred. After George was sent to jail, he made a strange confession, but where were the boys? To everyone's surprise, George insisted he had no idea what happened to them. To this day, the case remains unsolved. The police conducted several searches of the house over the years, but unfortunately, it seems this disturbing mystery is far from over. It was around this time that many people started noticing odd occurrences within the home. And as if things weren't already freaky enough, the paranormal activity didn't stop at the home's former residents. One time he was awoken in the middle of the night by the sound of someone screaming his name. Perhaps the house is simply reacting to the tragedy that occurred here. In the end, we may never know exactly what happened to the family. So, what do you think happened here?